Okay, let's go to work. So, Engine Rocky, good to see you. All right, so, okay. We're like just about 2 weeks out from sitting down with a corporate attorney, a securities attorney, to do a pretty big offering, up to $75 million. And I think a lot of the things that I've talked about on here have been at a pretty high level, financial markets and like metaphysics, and money markets and metaphysics is my usual tagline. I think today's a little bit different. Today's like, what are we going to do? Like, what does this look like? Sort of understand the tech and crypto and blockchain and AI, and that's all sort of like one thing. But like, what are people going to do? So when you click this open, you're probably going to see, you probably saw this thing for the first time. And I've been a little bit sheepish, pun intended, to show this to you until I really knew what the hell. But not last night, but the night before. Did you ever get these things in the middle of the night? You wake up and you're like, oh, yeah, that's the answer. Did you ever get that? I get that all the time. You get up to go to the boys' room at 2:30 in the morning and you're like, yeah, that's how to do that. Or like the first thing when you wake up in the morning, you're like, yeah, that's the answer. So I made this. Okay, you've seen this before, but this thing is sort of new to you. Bruno AI wants interns. And I sort of got the idea from this sitting in a Starbucks. I got the idea for this. This is AI took the Bruno statue from Rome and turned it into the mermaid from Starbucks. But let's talk about this intern thing. So I don't have the exact numbers, but probably 1 million people just graduated from college, maybe high school. As you all know, there's lots and lots of people that get into college and are like, what am I doing with all this debt and so forth? So we're going to talk about that. And then I think by even the Federal Reserve's own numbers, there's been no job creation since Trump took office. It's pretty remarkable that they would release that. But that's under Jay Powell. That's what they said. So we've all heard about the big AI layoffs, supposedly blamed on AI, at Facebook, at UPS, at Google, Microsoft, Oracle. I think 30,000. But these numbers are really pretty staggering. So there's all these people that are like sort of underemployed. And even when you walk into a Starbucks, right, there's lots of 20-somethings working behind the counter. The one I go to here in this little town, and there's a guy who's like not quite Gen X, probably in his 40s, who's the manager. And then frequently there's lots of empty nesters, like just chilling out without anything really to do, or maybe working on their laptop. But the moral of the story is there's lots and lots of people underemployed or unemployed or partially employed, or, have a master's in biology and are working at Starbucks. So you've heard me talk a couple times about something called Chain Opera. It was developed by an Iranian national working at Caltech and USC. And he was the PhD advisor to a young Chinese gentleman who developed what's called federated or Fed ML, federated machine learning. Now, I hate to ruin it for you, but AI is just machine learning. It's just the computer, like, computing itself. It's if you want to be sort of negative about it, it's basically regurgitation. But if you followed me in the research I've been doing, we're now learning that you can put LLMs together on local devices. Then you may have heard they're going to, Anthropic and OpenAI are going to go public with a pretty unusual release of stock that's only like 6% of the potential shares. And they want to raise about 60 billion each. But the starting point for all this is the utilization of OpenAI and Anthropic is leveling off. What? I thought AI is taking over the world and blah, blah, blah. Well, they're both mega systems, and the more you study AI, the more that you're learning that it's a more decentralized system, much like we use the word in the world of crypto. The word crypto's gone away, thank God, and now we talk about blockchain. But let's get back to this intern thing. So, if you want to do a little bit of a dive on Fed ML and Chain Opera, what those are systems for people using AI to operate together to train the AI. What? So, if you're on Google Gemini, you've probably noticed over the last 12 months that it's become incredibly fast and it's almost reading your mind. It's weird how fast it is, right? Because we are training it, right? Just we sort of know that like we're training Google. Like my dad sits down and like starts typing on Google, it's going to do some ag thing. Like I don't know, he needs plastic wrap or there's a sheep that needs an antibiotic or something. But now with AI, it's like creepy. It's like literally there's a guy on your shoulder. Hold on, it gets worse. So then when they do the math of the finance, I think it was Morningstar just came out and said one of these big IPOs should be cut in half in terms of its valuation. Morningstar. In other words, it's getting hard for professional people to sign off on these incredible valuations for businesses that are not dominating the space, but frankly look like they need money. Now, so we had like the last couple of years of AI just grow and grow and grow in sort of a silly way. You just get on AI and ask it to like, I have hemorrhoids or something, and it like gives you an answer, much like we did with the early internet. But back to all these people that are like sort of partially employed, and that's probably going to get worse. As you've probably heard from people like executives at Exxon, there's another wave of energy prices coming this summer, regardless of what happens between in the never-ending ceasefire that really isn't a ceasefire. So, sorry to make this long-winded introduction, but what if you found a way to bring particularly young people in their 20s, into the system, into this, call it federated system. I like the word federated. And, crypto systems are all federated. The Bitcoin miners, don't wake up in the morning and get an email from Seattle and say, go build another miner. They just do it. The people that build on Ethereum don't get an email from Vitalik. They just do it. The same thing's going to happen in AI. Okay. That's what I'm telling you. And some smart people in Southern California are already laying out the architecture. And I sort of stumbled into it and I was like, oh, this is like the thing where like blockchain and AI like merge. Mm-hmm. Mr. Snerdley. So one idea I had was, could we fund an intern program where people get like up to $500 a month to engage this federated process where 67 people in Minneapolis are all building, and let's just do opportunity zones because they're easy. And think about this for a minute. People like Raoul Paul point out that there's really no reason for people in their 20s to buy stocks at an all-time high. To own stock, to take cash, take their own. Now, are somebody who's 72, should they continue to hold the stock market? I don't know. I really don't know, but it's hard to say to someone who doesn't have a house and has student loans and can't afford a Honda Civic, can't afford to take a girl out to Ruby Tuesdays, that they should take all their cash and buy stocks at an all-time high. It's very possible that they're buying stocks at 1929. It's very possible that they're buying stocks in Japan in 1987. Big long-term historic peaks. The math is there. We're at the big all-term. Doesn't mean it won't go higher, but um, and how are young people even gonna accumulate any sort of asset? Well, one answer is they're not, right? You'll own nothing and like it, kind of a thing that you've heard. But so sort of like two things at once. You have people that are very displaced out of the economy. That's what I'm getting at. What if you made a system to incentivize them to help build out this system? Well, that's what they did at Chain Opera. There's actually a coin, and you actually get paid just a little bit of money, just like Bitcoin or Ethereum staking and so forth, to build out that system. What I'm getting is what if you got paid to operate it? Okay, what would that look like? Okay, let's just keep going to Minneapolis because it's in Minnesota because it's easy. So, what if some people started to build agents? Doesn't really require any horsepower in terms of hardware. Um, uh, Federated machine learning is built to run on Anthropic cell phones. Just like Vitalik said that ultimately Ethereum staking will happen on cell phones. So you'll have a guy in the middle of the Congo with a cell phone helping build blockchain systems with like no extra expense. It's a similar way to look at it. And what if, we're doing a financial thing here primarily, right? Like it's an investment thing. Like that's my thing that I just can't get away from. Like, why do we keep putting all our money in BlackRock? Why does Larry Fink say, hey, these AI systems need retail? That means everyday investors. Why would Larry Fink say that? Larry Fink manages $22 trillion. Why would Larry Fink say we have to get retail into it? Let's just calm down for a minute. Because all the other money's in. Private equity money's in. The private credit, that means debt, is already in the system. Oracle's borrowed as much money as it can. Facebook's borrowed as much. Christ, I just saw this morning. Google, I can't believe this. I can't believe this. These tech companies have been like, I don't know, 40%. You put them all together, the big ones, the Mag 7, whatever you want to call them, the top 10 big ones, have been like 30, 40, 50% of the share buybacks for the last 15 years. $1 trillion a year of share buybacks. That's money that will never be used to build anything, develop anything. As I like to say, it just goes right out the window. Google just announced that they're going to issue $30 billion of stock. Well, issuing stock is the opposite of buying the stock. And Oracle, for the last 10 years, bought back like 30, 40, $50 billion of its own stock, so much that it took so many shareholders out that Larry Ellison owns 40% of the company. He owns like as much of Oracle as Warren Buffett does of Berkshire Hathaway. It's both about 40%. If I'm wrong about that, you can correct me. What's going on? Well, the mega LLM AI build out is requiring growing amounts of money. You follow me? Like whenever you're investing in something, let's say like pharmaceuticals or a farm or whatever, the idea is you want to put money to work and you want the thing to reverse and the money to come back in. You don't just want to keep putting bigger and bigger and bigger amounts of money out. You get the idea. So to all the 24-year-olds with like $72,000 in student loans. What if we went to them and say, hey, wouldn't you, and you don't even have to meet the people, right? Just you and a bunch of people in Minneapolis or North Dakota or whatever, right? Why don't you work in this federated system where you're all contributing in some way to the build out of this? Literally a local LLM. It's a local large language model. In other words, you're taking the AI and aiming it, let's just say for Minnesota, because I like to keep going on about Minnesota. Okay, all right, cool. Like, what does that? Not very much. In other words, you would like have a cup of coffee in the morning and get on and say, all right, well, how many properties are available in Opportunity Zone 42721 or whatever it is? All right, I get you. And so it's gonna like supposedly the system might pay them a little bit of coin. Yeah, but hold on. What if when there's a transaction made in that with the use of that agent developing an investment opportunity, when there's a big transaction, right? Let's say $1 million, all the people that were involved in developing the agents involved in that. You see where I'm, dude? Let me just stop there for a minute. I don't understand what do you mean by the agents. So if you're going to invest in all this real world asset stuff, the question is who's going to do the underwriting? Who's going to make the decision making? Well, are you saying the like 24-year-old recent college grads are going to decide what to do with $1 million? No, what I'm just saying is they're just going to build the plumbing. And when those transactions happen, again, in this fictitious Opportunity Zone 42731 or whatever it is, we say, thank you so much for your efforts for the underwriting. And here's a significant amount of money to pay off a student loan. You mean they'd have like no out of pocket cost? Correct. You mean they could do this like as a hobby? Correct. You mean they would get on like social media and explain to other people what they're doing? Basically for free. In other words, you would leverage all these people. Correct. Let's keep the numbers pretty simple. Like, let's say it's $1 million, right? Underwriting fees in real estate transactions, for example, 3 to 5% is not out of the norms. You mean like you'd send a check to people for like 20 grand? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They'd almost have like nothing to lose. Mm-hmm. Because all the capital is already built into the tech. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And really what you're doing is you're leveraging the networking capacity of the internet that's already been built out. Mm-hmm. Things like crowdfunding and opportunity zones have almost like an insignificant amount of money has ever gone into them because there's no way to underwrite it. There's no way to get people in Manhattan to study or give a shit of what's going on in like rural North Dakota. But why would anybody give a shit with what's going on in rural North Dakota? Because this is the opportunity for young people to actually own something. This is going to happen, people. Meaning the financial situation is really made for the boomers, right? Never ending stock market, whether it's Obama or Trump or Bill Clinton or whatever. In the 90s, coming out of the Cold War, We just said, everybody's on board with Ronald Reagan. Let's make this a place where somebody can get rich. And really, if you watch cable TV, it's just playing to the boomers how and why we're making the stock market go up. Do we really compete with China at much of anything? No. Nope. The tokens for OpenAI, I forget the metric. Let's just say it's 10,000 or 100,000 tokens, is $15. With DeepSeek, that's the Chinese one, it's 15 cents. It's 99% cheaper. And this is why Larry Fink, without sort of like, sort of like Bill Gates says, we're going to use vaccines to control the population. They have no filter. They have no self-reflection of what they're saying. Larry Fink says, yeah, we have to get the retail people in. It's trillions in private equity. It's not quite, I think there's might be a couple trillion in venture capital, sovereign wealth funds, pensions, all this institution. We got to get the little guy in on this. And he didn't go on to finish the subject by saying, because the potential returns are so great, they need capital. And they need, this kind of capital. What I'm saying is there's other kinds of capital. There's human capital, right? This is the part that Palantir and Sam Altman and so forth don't ever want to hear, is that they're not going to control the whole fucking thing. So this is sort of a abstract. So you're saying like you'd make like a Facebook kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. I don't think the original software, I've started to do this like Trump. I don't think the original software for Facebook was probably real sophisticated, right? But it's the mass of people that got on it that created the content, right? And the basic concept of Web 3.0 is that's going to happen again, only the people who create the content are going to get paid. So my thought process is, when I met with a corporate production, what are they called? Like the people that make promotion company, a friend of mine who helped me early on with Bruno. And what if there was like maybe a little bit bigger than a credit card, but not much, like stuck to the bulletin board of like every Starbucks that we can swing a dead cat and find, because there's a zillion of them, right? Zillion underemployed 24-year-olds going in and out of the Starbucks bathroom. They hit the QR, they get into this system and says, where would you like to operate locally? Minneapolis, North Dakota, where I'm going with this. Oh, and I have the potential to make some money at this. Mm-hmm. So you're going to like train us to use AI. Mm-hmm. I just watched a video of the founder of Fed Machine Learning. You can go find it on YouTube yourself. And he just calls someone from Los Angeles and someone from Tokyo and someone from Dallas and says, okay, guys, we're all going to get on this system together and we're going to start to train it. The architecture has already been laid out. This is like an alternative to OpenAI. The name OpenAI, obviously is a conundrum because it's not OpenAI at all. What I just described is like a truly open AI. And the math of the stock market is just getting sillier and sillier every day. I mean, but that doesn't turn it around. It's in now what's called a gamma squeeze. That it isn't just in financial talk, it goes something like this. Beta is how much things go up and down versus the stock market. Like a low beta stock, if the stock If the market goes up 10%, a low beta stock with like 0.6 will only go up 6%. Value companies, blue chip companies like Exxon and back in the day, General Electric and so forth. Alpha is your attempt to do something moving more aggressively against the market. The market goes up 10%, you go up 13%. Gamma, I hope I say this correctly, is the leverage between some small delta in a security like Exxon stock and the movement of something else. Retail investors are now gambling like ultra sophisticated hedge funds. For example, people are buying like the 3x, 3 times the semiconductor indexes. Well, it gets worse. People are buying the call options, which are a derivative that sits on top of the 3x software indexes. Like, this is like financial fentanyl. Okay. Why? Because people don't know what else to do, right? Hamburger, they just, it's $9.99 a pound. Everybody has this sense, and it frequently happens. Mark Faber is the guy that said the worse it gets in the United States, the higher the stock market's going to go. You'd be hard pressed to find somebody in the last 25 years who said that. You'd be hard pressed to find somebody who said the worse the inflation, cost of living, wars, distribution of food, energy, etc., it'll push the stock market higher. What he's describing is it's pushing people to try to outrun the problem. This is the alternative. Our professor friends in Southern California did this in sort of a philosophical way, right? The big LLMs are being built with the big tech companies, with Microsoft, with NVIDIA, these mega systems that are going to require these insane data centers. All those data centers are going to look like shopping malls in 5 years. There's going to be these enormous things out in the middle of Texas and here in Western PA so they can suck all the Marcellus gas out. And all those fucking NVIDIA chips are all going to burn up. And everybody's going to go, this was completely insane. And then there's going to be some 24-year-old who saw this at Starbucks running AI on a $4,000 Apple laptop. Or maybe even an Android cell phone, like a high-end cell phone. The numbers of the firepower of these new chips and these new storage and so forth, and the hardware that you can buy at the store this afternoon is just unfathomable. Like an iPhone with like a terabyte of memory. Like you could run a small bank on an iPhone. So if you don't know anything else about tech and you just hear that, you're like, why would everything run on OpenAI? And that's the problem. That's the problem. So what I'm thinking is like social media and if you build like a distributed marketing thing, I'm like a stockbroker at heart. I'm like, how would you, like Larry Fink says we need to get retail involved, and my brain's going like, ooh, I think I can get retail involved. I think I can get people involved in AI in a way that will enrich them. Larry Fink's just trying to fuck them. You think Larry Fink can't pick up the phone and call the biggest pools of capital in the world? Somehow that's come to an end. Think about it. They have $20 trillion under management. Actually, they're AI system called Aladdin has 22 trillion or something like that. I think directly they control 10 trillion. So why is Larry Fink like passing out the OpenAI IPO to retail? Why wouldn't they be doing that in house? Why wouldn't they be doing it with their own money? Because the math doesn't math. The tech doesn't tech. Did you see all the students graduating and CEO Schmidt and these other people got up and started to talk about AI. And from the students, a lot of who have used AI in college are like, boo, no, we don't want that. How are these mega corporate AI systems going to encourage the people who are already negative about it? Right? Young people intuit of where the tech is going, like, better than people my age and older. We all know that, right? Your phone gets fucked up and you hand it to your kid and he goes, yeah, dumbass. Here, like, oh, my screen just locked up, like I'm stuck on this app or whatever. And you're like, you give it to your kid and he goes like, there, dad. Right. Your brain's different when you're young. So let's just think this through. So you're talking like a million people are working in this weird system you keep talking about, this decentralized thing. There's like blockchain somehow involved in it, and there's like laptops or something. Yeah. Mhm. So like these million people are like almost like engineering the yeah. Mhm. And they would be like financially significantly incentivized, not like a equity, like they own the system. Although we're working on that too. We're going to see the attorney this month, 2 weeks. Like it'd be just like Ethereum. Like they'd be building the system and like owning a little bit of the system because of their work. Hmm. It's like the proof of work and proof of stake and all that shit. Chain Opera has this thing called proof of intelligence. It's sort of intuitive. So you're saying there's like some people, like we'll call them kids, you know what I mean? They're not kids, but like in their 20s, like at the Starbucks, like doing the underwriting for like some part of Minneapolis that nobody's ever hasn't driven through in the last 2 weeks. Yep. And we don't really need to employ these people or salary them or pay their health care. Nope. Mm-mm. They have nothing to lose. It's like $2.2 trillion in student loans. Think about what the student loans are, too. The student loans are the deficit of spending of the baby boomers. Like to go to to go to the UC schools in the 60s was like, I don't know. I think it was like 90% less than it is now. Like we did, a friend of ours is going to Ohio State at our veterinary school. She's out of state and it's going to be $72,000. Back in the day, it would have been like 7,000. So the baby boomers, just everything, Clinton, Reagan, W1, tax cuts, tax cuts, tax cuts, tax cuts, tax cuts, tax cuts. Oh, we pay too much in tax. We pay 23% of GDP. It's one of the lowest in the world. The only country that's cheap that pays less in taxes than us is Singapore. Oh, the taxes are too fucking high. There's Switzerland, the top tax rate is like 63% and has a higher GDP per capita than we do, like significantly higher. In a country with no natural resources other than mountains and cheese. No, the baby boomers just kept everybody sold them this thing, right? Well, the corporations have to be able to get rid of those unions and lay people off and get rid of the engineers at GE. We're not going to have that. China's going to have that. Huawei is going to have that. Samsung's going to have that. The whole baby boomer thing just resulted in more and more stock market cap with nothing underneath it. So bad that an IPO gets talked down by Morningstar. Morningstar is the thing that does all the analysis of the mutual funds. And these IPOs are going to instantly go into all the mutual funds, including the index funds. Morningstar is actually going like, you can't even ask us to sign off on this. You can't tell us that we're going to have like 3% of every mutual fund is going to own 6% of a company that's at 100 times revenue. I mean, even sophisticated financial people know that like the NASDAQ 100 has an earnings yield of 2.66%. There's no cash flow underneath the NASDAQ. I mean, there is specific to like Microsoft, but if you take the whole NASDAQ 100, there's nothing there already. If you're going to put 3 or 4 or 5 or 6% of these new IPOs as top 10 market caps in every mutual fund, it's going to make it much worse. It's going to run it down to like 2.2%. Like, you mean like the whole country's money is like in shit paying 2% earnings? Yeah. Not dividends. No, earnings. Okay, so uh it's not a prediction and it's not it was just an intuition that I would just blurt out every once in a while. I would say things like, I don't even, like Microsoft has a blockchain, IBM has a blockchain. Nobody wants to use their blockchains. No 26-year-old is sitting right now with a laptop building anything on IBM's blockchain. Why? Because they don't want fucking IBM to own it, right? Because the Ethereum thing gave them just a little bit of like a hope that like they're going to build this little, I don't know, little machine, the infinite machine. They're going to build this little machine and they're going to get a little bit of ETH for it. They would rather do that than go to work for IBM. And that's what I'm getting at here. Then over the next 2 weeks, this is what I'm going to be focused on. I think the conversation to do a Reggae Plus offering that's like a mini IPO. 25 million is 5,000 times 5,000. 5,000 people times $5,000. If we can't do that in 18 or 24 months, I'm going to go fishing or something. Diesel fuel is probably going to be $7 or $8. People are just going to be like, what the fuck? Iran is just kicking Trump's ass day after day, night after night. They just hit the Kuwait airport. And they didn't hit it very hard. They could have put the thing completely out of business. They didn't. Just, boom, a couple people are dead. Kuwait, like a place that 10 years ago an American wouldn't think twice about flying in and out of, is getting hit by fucking missiles. And there's nothing Trump can do about it. Anyways, we won't get into that. I'm just saying the mega systems ain't mega anymore. They're desperate. They're desperate. Deep in finance world, you don't even know this, but as these interest rates start to click up, it means the ability for corporations to access capital becomes more and more expensive. Whenever I get lost in finance, I just say to myself, cost of capital. What do you mean? It's as simple as it sounds. Like Warren Buffett's cost to capital is, I can't prove this like in a graduate class, but Warren Buffett in his heyday, like 2008, Warren Buffett probably borrowed money, or not just borrowed, but just had access to capital cheaper than the US government. In other words, people look at Congress and the Oracle of Omaha and be like, I'd rather give the money to him, right? This is supposed to be risk free, but we know it's not risk free because of inflation. We're quite conscious of that now. So if you had to give $1 billion, who would you give it to? You'd probably give it to Warren Buffett before, right? Because his ability to find things that will outrun inflation is like 100 to 1. Like literally, his ratio of wins to losses, of gains to losses, was 100 to 1. Like just saying, even Nick Saban. Nick Saban's like 72% wins. This is 99% wins. Follow me? Jack Welch had a similar situation and then fucked it up. They had AAA rating, which means they could borrow money almost for the same as the US Treasury. There are some weird things every once in a while. The corporate rates would go below the Treasury rates. And in Europe, things were so fucked up over there. They had like negative interest rates and so forth. But that's sort of an aberration, like a back to Gen Z. Gen Z is so upside down. Student loans, can't afford to go to a bar, can't afford to date, can't afford anything. Now I know your niece got a nice job and is living in Austin and makes 110,000 and everybody should be like your niece. I get it, but the math just isn't with you. There's been several 100,000 people laid off from the big tech companies. I don't even know what they're doing right now. We could put 1 million people in the system. And I know you're like, James, you have some pretty good content, but like, you don't really think you're going to get 1 million people in this thing sitting in front of that door with that same goddamn Yale hat on that you've had on for 5 years. No, we may have to do something about that. But I'm telling you, if you really understand what AI is from the hardware standpoint, from the networking standpoint, from the output standpoint, like all the hubbubaloo about AI is like social media is like the internet, right? It's the fastest growing thing in the history of mankind. It's like the printing press and all that stuff. All that's true. The question is how is it like going to get deployed? It's not going to get deployed by Sam Altman. It's just not. Everybody hates him. It's not going to get deployed by Larry Ellison. Everybody hates him too. And his 22-year-old Ukrainian girlfriend. He's like 80. Nobody likes these people. Nobody wants to do business with them. That's what that guy, that Black Swan, it's called the Black Swan. He's a Substacker. He's like, they're like sort of obsolete. They're trying to use these mega LLMs. And if you get on this afternoon and go, you won't understand half of it. But people are talking about like building your own LLMs, like almost for free. No, there's no way. That's what China did. That's what we all learned, right? It was Boxing Day 2024, day after Christmas, because the Chinese have a sense of humor. They dropped DeepSeek. It instantly was number one on the apps. And everybody knows they trained it on Anthropic. That's the big joke, right? There's no way to keep this like in-house. There's no way to contain it into one C Corp. You could just go build 1,000 agents to go attack OpenAI and just suck everything out of it and put it in a couple of machines in the corner of that closet. The thing that always got me about blockchain wasn't the Bitcoin thing, wasn't the Ethereum's going to go up 5,000x and all that, although those are interesting concepts. The thing that always got me about it was the decentralization. If you're in the financial system, you know that our economy is probably, this is a true statement. I'm gonna lay this out, and I'm happy to have feedback. Maybe somebody who knows this better than I do. You could make a pretty good argument that clear the formula for the population difference. I'll bet the United States economy is more centralized than China. Think about that. Well, they're communists. Yeah, and to get into like the top, I don't know, like 1,000 people who run China, you have to have been a mayor of a city of 10 million people or more. You have to have run a city of 10 million fucking people to even get in the club. Most of the people that run our cities are assholes. Like literally assholes. They've never done anything. They're like Kamala Harris's. Or I mean, you could say the same about Trump too. He's like this bizarre, failed, never always failing entrepreneur, like that always has more and more money. No one knows where it comes from. So they have like the good kind of centralization. What do you mean? Well, they developed DeepSeek, and the Communist Party said everybody's going to use this. We're going to train. This is what I'm getting at. We're going to train DeepSeek because every major corporation is going to run fucking everything on DeepSeek, and they trained it like in 6 months because of it. Well, they didn't get the best chip, right? So even that, they said, all right, we're not going to get the fastest chips from NVIDIA. Let's figure it out. You see, there's the genius there. They said, no, this is how this works. Now all of you go solve the problem. See, everything here leads back to Larry Fink and Mrs. Rothschild. How could we not have 10 million more homes? Because they don't want there to be 10 million more homes because you'll own nothing and you'll like it. We have a kind of like upside down, inside out Bolshevik control of our financial system. The government doesn't control the financial system. The financial system controls the government. I don't know if that's hard for you to understand, but that's like the easiest cliche to lay out about the English speaking world that there is. Right? Thomas Massey gets a little edgy in Tennessee. They just fucking $30 million just comes into rural Tennessee and just blows him out of the water. That's how America works. America's more concentrated, more power and money is centralized. I mean, you could make a very good argument that the person who really runs America is Mary Adelson. She's the Adelsons are the biggest contributor to the Republican Party and have been for like the last 20 years, for most of the war on terror. Okay, I don't want to go back into like that content. I've made 5 years of that kind of content. Let's all calm down. But the empire of AI isn't going to work. The tech isn't there. The money's not there. The future architecture of AI is not there. They have nothing on their side. What they're really trying to do is make federal law that no one is allowed to resist them. And they're sort of desperate to go get pump $60 billion into these two companies because they're sort of falling apart. They're sort of dying. What I mean dying, I don't mean they're dying like they're going down. I mean they're not growing as fast as the things they're competing with. Look at how fast Facebook bought Manus. These big tech companies don't have it, people. They don't have it. They fired Sam Altman, which when you fire the head coach, right, things tend to fall apart. So they had to put him back in just to get him back onto CNBC and back onto the TED Talks and back onto YouTube to keep the Hunger Games fantasy alive. This is why this is such a big opportunity. It's not impossible to get 1 million people all building AI together. Mm-mm. No, I'm actually thinking about like I bought a Sprinter van so I could travel with it this summer. It's being built out right now. Big ass commercial brakes and stuff. Like they're really built like a commercial vehicle. But I was thinking, I was thinking of like running around to Big Ten football games with this crazy wrapped van that would like, have all this Bruno shit on it and town and country. Like I have all kinds of crazy ideas, you know how I am. And people are going to be like, what is that? I don't know. Just take a thing of the QR code and like, we're operating here in Minneapolis. We're operating here in Illinois. We're operating here at Rutgers in New Jersey and Jersey City and so forth. It's not that hard to get 1 million people. Now, from the venture capitalists, you get 1 million people picking their nose on your social media, and you have $1 billion valuation. It doesn't even take 1 million. It takes like 100,000. So one of my basic premises has always been like this heretical thing that like, while everybody's talking about these mega systems that are associated with the NASDAQ, I would always say something like, because as I'd study, I'd be like, I don't even really see that the big changes, the big thinking is even associated with C Corps, with NASDAQ companies. I mean, even like Anthropic, like in OpenAI, like the people at the top of those systems, they tend to get pissed off because they're gonna like Pentagon's gonna try to take over Anthropic, and they're like, fuck this, and then they just leave and they go do something else, and they make a PBC, a public benefit corporation, or they do something over here that's like, I don't know, employee owned or something, but they don't like run to Microsoft and IBM. Nobody wants like 0.0000000% of Microsoft anymore. Mm-mm. So this is a pretty big opportunity. I will finish with this though. I tend to attract Gen X white men that are relatively conservative. And they don't want to hear this. They don't want to hear that the NASDAQ is not going to ride them off into the sunset. They don't even really want to hear that Gen X white men aren't going to be running shit. But that's the truth. I mean, the whole Trump thing is sort of I'm sorry, but like a white man's fantasy. We can't even have Chinese cars in this country. The big three would instantly go bankrupt. So Trump's going to come in and he's going to like tariff everybody and threaten everybody. Like, do you think that that's going to fucking work long term? That like the United States economy is going to be, well, we're exporting oil and gas. Okay, great. So do you think your oil and gas prices are going to go up or down as they export the oil and gas? You're not even in it. You're not even in they're just playing you. But for July 4th, we're going to have a big Kid Rock white male fantasy. You know, Iran, China, like all the bullshit. Like all the bullshit that white people just want to hear on cable TV. Everything's working. We're going to be able to live like this forever. There's no inflation. Gas prices are going to be cut in half and all this bullshit. All the numbers are going in the opposite direction, but people just believe what they want to hear. People that don't have anything in this country are underutilized, underinvested. Nobody's reaching out to them, right? JD Vance, like, why do we have decisions made by like the cat ladies? Like, what a fucking asshole. Like, if he was at a bar, I think I'd throw a beer bottle at him. Like, I hate all these fucking people. All of them. Sorry, there was a little emotional breakdown there, but like, it's just such cultural trash. I mean, I'd go with Kid Rock, but like JD Van, like, it's just this white male fucking fantasy, and they even know that they're losing at loser Iran, loser Iran just hit the fucking airport in Kuwait last night. All right, let's all be friends again. The whole fourth turning thing explained this to us. Like, I think about it off and on, and I'm like, they're basically saying that like Gen Z, how's it go again? Boomers are the prophets, right? Loser Iran. I have hairy legs. I'm from Scranton. It's the same thing. It's the boomers. Gen X are like the nomads, like nihilistic. Um, what's the thing from the Smashing Pumpkins? Despite all my rage, I'm still just a rat in a cage. I feel like that. I'm 55. Then, um, what are the millennials? The millennials are like the destroyers, right? And they even have like we knew that like as they were coming of age that they're like, just, you know, their boss says, oh, you have to work Thursday night. Fuck you, Bob. I'm not working Thursday night. And they walk out the door, right? And then everybody goes, no one wants to work. The millennials are just like ready to like piss everything away at any moment, right? The prediction is that Gen Z will be the artists. They'll be the people that build everything. That's what we're doing here. I think this intern thing is what's going to, a lot of you are going to go away from this and you're going to go like, oh, I see what this crazy son of a bitch has been talking about the whole time. Wall Street's not going to do anything constructive. Wall Street doesn't have anything. Chamath Palihapitiya doesn't have anything. The tech bros don't have anything. That's why they took over the White House, because they don't fucking have anything. Oh, we have the 2 millimeter chips. You don't need 2 millimeter chips. You can make real sophisticated systems with 5 millimeter chips. They don't have anything. We have oil and gas. We have lots of oil and gas to export. But what they, this is where it touches on like a little bit of like religion and so forth. The, what's the word? Not consciousness. We all know now that AI is not conscious. It can have memory. It can manipulate memory. It can even manipulate your memory. What it doesn't have is it's not creative. It's not creative. Um, you can tell it to write a song that sounds like a Beatles song, and it sounds like a computer that made a song that sounds like the Beatles song. It can even get really close. You could tell it to make a Led Zeppelin song, and it'll have a big, heavy riff in it, real heavy drums, and some guy who can wail his voice 4 octaves in an instant. But it's not going to be Led Zeppelin. A million Gen Z people could be Led Zeppelin.